If you're over 50 and still using the same hair oils you trusted for decades, you need to hear this today. What worked beautifully in your 40s and 50s can actually trigger the exact opposite effect on mature scalps. And U.S. dermatologists are seeing this pattern repeatedly in their clinics across America and Europe. This isn't about typical aging hair thinness. This is about 5 specific oils that doctors here in the United States watch closely because they're connected to a type of scalp inflammation that accelerates hair loss in women over 50. I'm going to walk you through each one, and more importantly, I'll share what leading medical researchers recommend instead. But here's what matters. If you stay until the end, you'll discover the number one oil mistake that almost nobody talks about. Yet, it's the most damaging of all. Please hit that like button right now. Drop a comment telling us your age so we can build this community of women supporting each other. And let's get started because your hair deserves better. Before we dive into the first oil that's causing problems for aging scalps, I want you to understand something important that U.S. doctors have observed over the past decade. Your scalp at 50 is fundamentally different from your scalp at 50. The sebaceous glands that produce natural oils slow down dramatically. The skin becomes thinner and more sensitive, and the hair follicles themselves become smaller and more vulnerable. This isn't just aging, this is a complete biological shift. And what your scalp needs changes entirely. That's why oils that once gave you shine and strength can now clog your pores, trigger inflammation, and actually suffocate the very follicles you're trying to protect. The first oil that's causing serious trouble for women over 50, especially here in the United States, is coconut oil. Now, I know this might surprise you because coconut oil has been praised everywhere for years. It's been called a miracle oil, a natural remedy, something pure and safe. But here's what dermatologists in America are seeing in their examination rooms. When women over 50 use coconut oil regularly on their scalps, a significant number develop what's called follicular occlusion. That's a fancy term for blocked hair follicles. Coconut oil has large molecules, much larger than other oils. And on a mature scalp where the pores are already smaller and the natural oil production has decreased, these molecules sit on top of the skin like a heavy blanket. They don't absorb well. Instead, they create a barrier that traps dead skin cells, bacteria, and debris right at the opening of each follicle. Over time, this leads to inflammation, itching, and eventually the hair follicle becomes so irritated that it simply stops producing healthy hair. The hair that does grow becomes thinner, weaker, and breaks easily. U.S. dermatologists often see women come in confused because they've been using coconut oil for moisture, thinking they're doing something good, but their hair is falling out more than ever. Research conducted at the University of California has shown that coconut oil, while excellent for certain skin types and younger individuals, can be problematic for aging scalps due to its comedogenic nature, meaning it tends to clog pores. So, what's the fix? If you love the idea of natural oils, switch to argan oil or grapeseed oil instead. These have much smaller molecules that actually penetrate the scalp rather than sitting on top of it. Argan oil in particular has been studied extensively, and researchers at Johns Hopkins University found that it provides moisture without the heavy, elusive effect. Use it sparingly, just a few drops on your fingertips. Massage it gently into your scalp once or twice a week, and you'll get hydration without suffocation. But don't click away yet, because the second oil we need to talk about is even more common in American households, and the damage it causes happens faster than you might think. The second oil creating problems for aging scalps is mineral oil, and this one is hidden in so many products that you might not even realize you're using it. Mineral oil is a petroleum byproduct, and it's incredibly cheap to manufacture, which is why it shows up in countless hair products marketed to mature women. You'll find it in hot oil treatments, hair serums, leave-in conditioners, and even some shampoos designed for dry hair. The problem with mineral oil on a scalp over 50 is that it creates an impermeable film. Think of it like wrapping your scalp in plastic wrap. Nothing gets in and nothing gets out. Your scalp needs to breathe. It needs to shed dead skin cells naturally, and it needs to maintain a balanced moisture level. When you coat it with mineral oil, you disrupt all of these processes. U.S. dermatologists frequently encounter older women who complain of an itchy, flaky scalp despite using products that promise moisture. When they examine these patients, they often find a buildup of mineral oil that's been accumulating for months or years. This buildup not only prevents your scalp from functioning normally, but it also creates an environment where yeast and bacteria thrive. That leads to dandruff, inflammation, and eventually hair loss. Studies from the American Academy of Dermatology have documented that mineral oil offers no real benefit to aging hair or scalp health because it doesn't actually moisturize. It just sits on the surface and creates the illusion of hydration. European dermatologists have been moving away from recommending mineral oil for years, and American doctors are finally catching up. So, what should you do instead? Look for products that contain jojoba oil or squalane. Jojoba oil is unique because its molecular structure is very similar to the sebum your scalp produces naturally, which means your skin recognizes it and accepts it. Squalane, which is derived from olives or sugar cane, is lightweight, non-comedogenic, and actually penetrates the scalp to provide real moisture. Researchers at Stanford University have documented that squalane helps maintain scalp barrier function without creating buildup. When you're shopping for hair products, flip the bottle over and read the ingredient list. If you see mineral oil, prolatum, or paraffinum liquidum listed in the first 5 ingredients, put it back on the shelf. Your scalp will thank you. Now, you might be thinking you've dodged these first 2 oils. But what I'm about to share next is something that almost every woman over 50 has in her bathroom right now, and it's causing damage in a way that's particularly sneaky. The third oil that's backfiring on mature scalps is castor oil. And this one might genuinely shock you because castor oil has been recommended for hair growth for generations. Your grandmother probably used it. Your mother probably used it. And you've probably been using it too. But here's what doctors in the United States are discovering. Castor oil is incredibly thick and viscous, almost sticky. And on a scalp that's already producing less natural oil, it creates a problem that's hard to reverse. The thickness of castor oil makes it extremely difficult to wash out, especially for women who don't wash their hair frequently because they're trying to avoid stripping what little natural oil they have left. What ends up happening is that castor oil accumulates on the scalp over time, coating the follicles, mixing with dead skin cells, and creating a pastel-like substance that actually hardens around the hair shaft. U.S. dermatologists call this product buildup. And in older women, it's particularly problematic because the scalp's ability to naturally exfoliate decreases with age. When your follicles are coated in this thick residue, they can't breathe. They can't absorb nutrients from topical treatments, and they certainly can't produce healthy hair. Research from the University of Pennsylvania Medical School has shown that while castor oil contains rycic acid, which has anti-inflammatory properties, the benefits are completely negated when the oil cannot be properly removed and instead causes occlusion and bacterial overgrowth. Women often come into dermatology offices across America complaining that their hair feels heavy, looks greasy even right after washing, and is falling out in alarming amounts. When doctors examine their scalps, they frequently find a thick layer of castor oil residue that requires specialized cleansing treatments to remove. The fix here is straightforward but important. If you want to support hair growth, skip the castor oil entirely and instead use rosemary oil diluted in a carrier oil like sweet almond oil. Studies conducted at the University of Maryland found that rosemary oil, when used correctly, can stimulate circulation in the scalp without creating buildup. The key is dilution. Mix 3 to 4 drops of pure rosemary essential oil with 1 TSP of sweet almond oil. Massage it gently into your scalp. Leave it for 20 minutes, then wash thoroughly with a clarifying shampoo. Do this once a week, not daily, because more is not better when it comes to aging scalps. But before you run to try this fix, you need to hear about the fourth oil because this one is actively being marketed to older women right now, and the companies selling it know exactly what they're doing. The fourth oil causing severe problems for women over 50 is tea tree oil, especially when it's used undiluted or in high concentrations. Now, tea tree oil has legitimate antimicrobial properties, and dermatologists do recommend it for certain scalp conditions like seborrheic dermatitis or fungal infections. But here's the critical issue that U.S. doctors are seeing repeatedly. Aging skin is thinner, more permeable, and far more sensitive than younger skin. When tea tree oil, which is quite potent, is applied to a mature scalp, it can cause what's called contact dermatitis, which is essentially a chemical burn. The symptoms start as redness and tingling, which many women ignore, thinking it means the product is working. Then comes intense itching, flaking, and eventually the skin becomes inflamed and damaged. Once the scalp is in this state, hair loss is inevitable because the follicles are under constant inflammatory stress. Dermatologists across the United States report that they're seeing more and more older women with scalp damage from tea tree oil, often because they're using products that contain high concentrations or they're applying pure tea tree oil directly without understanding the risks. Research from Harvard Medical School has documented that while tea tree oil can be beneficial in concentrations of 2 to 5%, when properly diluted, concentrations above that level or undiluted application can cause significant irritation, especially in individuals over 65. European health authorities have issued similar warnings, noting that older adults should approach tea tree oil with extreme caution. The fix here is essential to understand. Never ever apply pure tea tree oil directly to your scalp. If you want to use it for its antimicrobial benefits, buy products where it's already properly diluted by the manufacturer. And even then, do a patch test first. Apply a small amount behind your ear or on your inner wrist. Wait 24 hours and see if any redness or irritation develops. If you experience any reaction, don't use the product on your scalp. Better yet, consider using gentler alternatives like diluted lavender oil or chamomile oil, both of which have soothing properties without the harsh effects. Studies at the Mayo Clinic have shown that lavender oil can support scalp health without causing irritation, making it a much safer choice for mature women. You've made it this far, and that tells me you're serious about protecting your hair, which is exactly why you need to stay for the final oil I'm about to reveal, because this is the one that doctors in the United States consider the most damaging of all, and it's hiding in plain sight in products you probably use every single day. The fifth and most damaging oil for aging scalps over 50 is actually a category of oils that I need you to understand clearly. Heavily fragranced oils and oil blends that contain synthetic additives, preservatives, and chemical fragrance compounds. These show up everywhere in the beauty industry, especially in products marketed as anti-aging or restorative hair treatments. The bottles look expensive, the marketing promises transformation, and the ingredient list is full of things you can't pronounce. Here's what U.S. dermatologists want you to know. As your scalp ages, your immune system's response in the skin changes. You become more susceptible to allergic reactions and sensitivities that you never had before. Those synthetic fragrances and chemical preservatives that you tolerated just fine in your 50s and 60s can suddenly trigger severe reactions in your 70s. The scalp becomes red, inflamed, unbearably itchy, and most critically, the constant inflammation causes something called chronic tigon alluvium, which is a fancy medical term for ongoing hair loss, where the follicles are pushed into a resting phase and never recover properly. This type of hair loss is exactly what doctors in the United States watch closely because it's often misdiagnosed as simple aging when it's actually a reaction to products. Research conducted at the University of Chicago Medical Center found that women over 50 who eliminated fragranced hair products from their routine saw a significant reduction in scalp inflammation and in many cases experienced hair regrowth after months of consistent avoidance. The FDA has also raised concerns about certain fragrance chemicals and preservatives commonly used in beauty products, noting that they can cause cumulative damage over time, particularly in older adults whose skin barrier function has naturally declined. So, here's your most important fix. And this is the one that can truly change everything. Switch to fragrance free, preservative minimal products specifically formulated for sensitive or aging scalps. Look for labels that say hypoallergenic, fragrance free, not unscented, which can still contain masking fragrances, and dermatologist tested. Better yet, consider using single ingredient pure oils that you buy from reputable sources rather than commercial blends. When you're using something like pure argan oil or pure jojoba oil from a trusted supplier, you know exactly what's going on your scalp, and there's no risk of hidden irritants. Additionally, and this is critical, give your scalp regular breaks from all products. U.S. dermatologists recommend that women over 50 should have at least 2 or 3 days per week where they use absolutely nothing on their scalp except a gentle, sulfate free shampoo and water. This gives your skin time to reset, to repair its natural barrier, and to function the way it's meant to without interference. Studies from the University of Southern California have shown that reducing product load on aging skin allows for better natural moisture retention and reduces inflammatory markers significantly. I also want you to understand something that doesn't get talked about enough. Just because a product is natural or organic doesn't automatically mean it's safe for your aging scalp. Some of the worst reactions dermatologists see in their American clinics come from so-called natural products that contain essential oils, botanical extracts, and plant-based ingredients that are actually quite irritating. Natural doesn't equal gentle. And at 50 plus, gentle is exactly what your scalp needs. Let me give you a complete picture of what your new hair care routine should look like based on what U.S. doctors and researchers recommend for women over 50. First, wash your hair no more than 2 to 3 times per week using a gentle sulfate-free shampoo that's fragrance-free. Between washes, if your scalp feels dry, use a tiny amount of jojoba oil or squalane, warming it between your palms and gently pressing it into your scalp, not rubbing vigorously, which can damage fragile hair. Once a week, consider a gentle scalp massage with diluted rosemary oil in sweet almond oil to stimulate circulation, followed by thorough cleansing. Avoid hot water when washing your hair because it strips the scalp of natural oils. Use lukewarm water instead. Pat your hair dry rather than rubbing it with a towel, and let it air dry whenever possible because heat styling compounds the damage. If you're experiencing significant hair loss despite making these changes, it's time to see a dermatologist in person. There are prescription treatments available that can help, including topical minoxidil, which has been approved by the FDA and studied extensively in older women. Research from Northwestern University has shown that women over 50 can still benefit from minoxidil, though results vary and patience is essential. Some dermatologists also recommend low-level laser therapy, platelet triplasma treatments, or nutritional supplementation with biotin and other vitamins, though these should only be pursued under medical supervision after proper evaluation. Here's something else that matters tremendously, but rarely gets discussed. Stress, sleep quality, and nutrition have an enormous impact on hair health at every age, but especially after 50. Chronic stress elevates cortisol levels, which directly affects hair follicle function. Poor sleep disrupts the body's repair processes, including hair growth cycles. And inadequate protein intake, which is common in older adults, deprives your body of the building blocks it needs to make hair. U.S. doctors increasingly take a snorts, whole body approach to treating hair loss in older women because they understand that topical treatments alone aren't enough. Make sure you're eating enough lean protein every day. Aim for 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep. Practice stress reduction techniques like gentle yoga or meditation. And stay hydrated. These aren't just generic wellness tips. They're evidence-based strategies that support hair health from the inside out. I want to address one more thing before we wrap up, and it's important: the emotional toll of hair loss. For many women, hair is deeply connected to identity, femininity, and self-esteem. Watching your hair thin or fall out as you age can be devastating, and those feelings are completely valid. But please know that you're not alone and you're not vain for caring about this. Hair loss in women over 50 is incredibly common, affecting more than 60% of women in this age group, according to data from the American Academy of Dermatology. U.S. doctors are well aware of the psychological impact, and they take it seriously. If you're struggling emotionally with hair changes, please talk to your doctor. There are support groups, counseling services, and even cosmetic options like hair toppers or volumizing products that can help you feel more like yourself while you work on improving your scalp health. The bottom line is this: the oils you use on your aging scalp matter more than you might think. Coconut oil, mineral oil, castor oil, undiluted tea tree oil, and heavily fragrant synthetic oil blends are all causing problems for women over 50. Problems that U.S. dermatologists see every single day in their practices, but now you know what to avoid, and more importantly, what to use instead. You have the power to change your hair's trajectory by making informed choices, being patient with the process, and giving your scalp the gentle, thoughtful care it needs at this stage of life. Your hair may never be exactly what it was at 40, and that's okay, but it can still be healthy, manageable, and something you feel good about. Let's build a community where we support each other through these challenges. And remember, your worth isn't determined by your hair, but taking care of yourself, including your hair, is an act of self-respect and self-love. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll talk about the biggest mistakes women over 50 make with hairstyling tools and how to protect your hair from heat damage. Take care.